Hi all, my name is Alessandro Mastroianni. I'm a product expert at Krotos, and today I'm really excited because I have with us Ryan Hobler, who's a sound designer at Gramercy Park Studios. His work mostly involves working with commercials, but he's also a great songwriter. He has a fantastic series on Instagram and YouTube called And Or. He works with podcasts. He's a man of multiple talents. I'm really excited to have this chat with him. Thank you so much for being with us and having this chat with me.
Thank you, Alessandro. Thanks for having me.
I'm really interested in your work with commercials because we didn't have any guest that specializes in that sort of area of audio post. Do you want to talk a little bit about that kind of workflow?
So yeah, working in commercials is really interesting. Like when I was working at Genie Music Flavor Lab, we were working mainly in promos. Like they worked on a lot of Discovery, PBS, History Channel. And it'd be very straightforward. It would be like, oh, we're doing this promo for the next show that's coming up. We'd work on it, and it would be like maybe a day's work. Then it would be out the door. Commercials at the time, I worked for Gray Advertising in an ad agency in New York City, and they had an in-house post-production facility. I think that was called at the time Tape Center when I started. Yeah. It's had so many names. It was hilarious. But I went over there, and it was such a culture shock because you could be working on. I had friends who were working on television shows and movies, and they'd be 2-3 months working on an entire like television show series, like at the time probably 20 episodes of content. And I started off working on something for just as long, but it was a 30-second commercial. The primary challenge for me, especially as a young, thoroughly not ready engineer, was actually learning how to communicate and how to speak and listen to people as my clients for the first time. That's still something that I just find to be the most exciting and exhilarating part of the job. What's so interesting to me about working in the commercial space is you're working on primarily like all these small pieces of content, 15, 30 seconds, but there's so much time and effort and such a large group of people working on that if you're not on the same page with everybody, and if you don't communicate, if you don't speak and listen to what this thing that you're creating is supposed to be, then it can very easily go off the rails. So one of the first things that I learned was get to the heart of like what do we want to convey here? What is the emotion? And I felt like my musical background kind of contributed to this kind of effort. You're performing as a sound designer mixer with clients breathing down your neck, and in the advertising world, everybody was breathing down your neck, like, come on, we got to get this out, But you're also shepherding their ideas that they've been working on for months before they walk through your door. How do you want this? What's the emotion behind this? What's your intent behind this? If I grab and snag and embody that in the sound, the music, the sound design, whatever, then it's brilliant.
Let's dig deeper a little bit into the workflow of working with ads. Do you want to tell us a little bit how you approach a project?
Working in that kind of environment, you want to work as fast as you possibly can. You want to work. You don't want to think about too much like what you're doing and how to do it. You want to just do it. If you're making like a genie, coming out of a lamp sound, you don't want to be thinking about how that's being routed in Pro Tools. You want everything at your fingertips like as soon as possible. The template that I've created for our folks at Gramercy Park Studios is exhaustive. So there's a bunch of stuff in there that just helps us execute as fast as possible, just to stay in the creation energy as opposed to this like everything inside of behind the scenes happening in Pro Tools. I don't want to be thinking about any of that stuff while I'm crafting sound design and atmospheres and things like that. Along those same lines, like using Krotos, Reformer is one of my favorites because I wind up using it because of the immediacy of how simple it is to use. Me also being a performer by nature as a musician, a singer, I love being able to create sounds and just point that little dot in that XY graph in Reformer Pro. On one of my Andor videos, actually, most recently, I was sound designing this butterfly that comes into the screen and kind of flutters into the screen and then lands on this branch. And I wound up using Reformer Pro for that. Sometimes when I watch these videos, when I'm sound designing something, I hear the sound and I make the sound with my voice. I just go, and that sounds like a little fluttery butterfly to me. But I wanted it to have a little bit of an edge, so I wound up just doing that and then opening up Reformer and kind of going in between, I think, the leaves and twigs library and like a sizzle, like a burning library that comes with the Reformer. It just worked. I love the fact that you could work with layers and point it in between, up to 4 sounds in Reformer at the moment, and being able to do that is just wonderful. I love using Reformer. Reformer is my favorite. That's like me. I sing, I vocalize, I perform. I want to perform my music. I want to perform my sound as much as possible. I want it to come from me. There's something for me personally as a musician, like first and foremost, playing my synth is here. You can't see it, but playing a synth, like playing sounds through that, tweaking a synth that feels more natural and more alive to me than going into the effects and files and editing them. Little sounds like that, you could do that with Reformer in like 2 seconds, just going whoosh, whoosh, like that, as opposed to taking like several, maybe like 8 layers of files and tweaking them to sound the way that you want them to sound.
Really cool. So since you mentioned Andor, let's talk a little bit about that. It's such an interesting series. I think my favorite one is the Rubik's Cube. And I love how, actually I don't want to say it. Why don't you talk a little bit about what it is and how you came up with the idea?
Andor came from a place of, I guess, reconciliation for me. I have these 2 sides. Like I have my musical side and my audio post sound design side. I kept these 2 things separate for such a long time. The more I did, worked on music, the more I worked on commercials, the more I worked on films, podcasts, etc., the more I discovered that this is a ridiculous mindset to have. Like, why are these 2 things? Why am I treating these 2 halves as completely separate? It's called Andor because I do music and or sound design for various shorts. I started on Instagram because at the time, Instagram's evolved since then, but at the time Instagram, the limit was like 1 minute for a video. And I loved the idea of doing something really short. I also wanted to do something where I could experiment, and I experiment all the time. I'm always trying to push myself and try new things, even in an ad sense where maybe I'm working on a very simple sound sonically, a simple sonic commercial where it's just a voiceover and a music track. Even if I'm working on something like that, I'm still exploring various ways to maybe do some like parallel compression on the music and really pump it up when it goes to this wide shot in the commercial, or with meaning and intent throughout. But that is limited. Like the and or is only, it's basically whatever I want it to be. Like I reach out to various visual artists, whether they be motion designers or animators or friends of mine who have way more visual sensibilities than myself. And I say, hey, you want to make a video together? And they say sure. And then it's just for fun. Like I don't get paid for it. I'm not looking to get paid for it. And it's just a creative flex, just to be, here's a visual with nothing on it, and now let's make something out of it. The Rubik's Cube one, I saw that. I think I saw that on Instagram, and I reached out to the animator, and I was like, hey, can we work together? And there's something beautiful about working one-on-one with someone again. So it was just. And that's been the case on pretty much all of those videos. I think there's been about, I can't remember. Oh, there's 16 of them now. I just I had a little cheat screen up there. But there's 16 of them, and it's just fun. I just go out and I look for exciting visual artists, and I say, hey, let's make a video together. It's wonderful being able to make it from the ground up and have it just be what it is. But it's all creation and it's all experimentation, whether it's learning new tricks using Reformer or Igniter or making whatever you want to make without any limitations. So
there's something very exciting and also very scary about having nothing at all to work with, having no production track to use as a reference, having no sync points, having nothing, and yeah, I find that very exciting. And as you say, you can be very experimental with it and very abstract even, because there is sort of like no real world counterpart that you need to respect in a way. So that's cool.
It's my favorite thing to work on. Most of the Andor videos are animated. I think some of my favorite ad work has been the animated stuff, actually. One of the Applebee's commercials I did was like this little elf, and he climbs up this hill and he's thinking about Applebee's. But it was like a mini Pixar, 15-second Pixar movie. It was so much fun to work on because there was nothing. There was nothing there before there was something. So
audio post music, really, getting all the audio industry into under the biggest umbrella that you can think of. What do you think is the future of the industry, and especially how do you see the role of the sound designer evolving?
I'm gonna look back upon my answer in like 10 years and be like, what a fool I was. I didn't know where anything was headed. I guarantee you whatever I say right now will not be it. But I personally think that we're headed. I like the direction that you guys at Krotos seems to be headed in. But it seems like performance and kind of gesture based. The technology, it's so incredible what kids coming out of college can do and access today. They have all this technology at their fingertips that wasn't something that we had growing up, and it wasn't as accessible, wasn't as easy to pay for, to grab. It wasn't something we get on an app on our phone or our iPad or touchscreen, whatever. I imagine it like that film Minority Report, where Tom Cruise is just moving information all around on his virtual chalkboard. I would love to be able to manipulate audio in a way that's more natural and based off of movement and voice, actually physically interacting with the media. I feel like that's where it's headed. It's got to be headed that way. It's just going to get even better and more incredible. I'm really excited, to be honest.
I just want to say that it's so cool that even an established sound designer like yourself, still finds the time to do something like the Andor series as something very inspiring, because we all need to find some time to do some experimentation. And yeah, if you're younger, you can use that as a way to put your work out and find work. But it's also, even if you're not young and even if you're already established, it's really inspiring what you're doing with Andor. I really loved it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's important. It's key to keep on pushing. You always have to reach for something more. Like you can't just do the same thing over and over again. You gotta explore. And if you're not, I feel like if you're not exploring, then you're in a state of stasis, and you can't become more than if you're not exploring. You can't become more if you don't explore. That rhymes. But no, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we can close it here. And thank you so much for finding the time to do this. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. No, this is awesome.